like I need something to sit on. What is up, YouTube fam? Welcome back to my channel. It is January 17th. Your girl had some blood work today, and apparently you need the paperwork when you have to go get blood work done. I forgot the paperwork. I got sent back home. I kind of had my makeup done. I had my hair done, so I was like, you know what? Let's film something for the tube. So that's what's happening right now. If you have been following me for a while, then you would know that in 2016 I visited about 14 or 15 different countries. Most of them were in Europe. I also went to Dubai. I went to Colombia in January. I don't know if that counts since I have been there, like, I live there. I'm from Colombia. But either way, I learned a lot about traveling, and a lot of you guys have asked me what tips that I have for traveling and things like that. So even though it's not completely fitness related, I am throwing in some stuff in there for people that are into fitness and that would like to still stay on track while traveling. And then I also have a lot of tips for people who just like traveling as well and might want to save some money on like apartments or taxis and things like that. So sit tight and let's get into these tips. So the first thing that I would recommend is getting a SIM card wherever you go. In Europe, it's a little bit hard because you're going from country to country. Even though it feels like you're in just one big country, you're not. It's a continent, so obviously every country has a different SIM card. But if you are gonna be in one place for at least like 3 or 4 or 5 days, I would highly recommend getting a SIM card just because it'll come in very, very handy when it comes to like ordering Ubers or finding places. You can use your maps as well to get around, and that's basically how I got around wherever I went. I would just use my maps, and even if I didn't have SIM cards, what I would do is I would preload my maps wherever I was. I would always mark my location, that way I knew where I was staying. If you ever go to Venice, Italy, everything actually looks the same, so it's really, really easy to get lost. But if you mark your location, you know exactly where you need to go back, and you can just like watch the little blue dot, which is you, walk around wherever you're going. And maps actually shows all the big attractions, and it's honestly so easy to get around if you're using maps. Like, you literally just walk with your phone in front of you and you can get anywhere wherever you are. So I would highly recommend getting a SIM card so you can use your maps, and if you don't get a SIM card, then you can at least preload your maps when you have Wi-Fi and kind of enter some of the spots that you want to go to, and that way they'll be preloaded onto your maps when you don't have Wi-Fi. Packing light. When you travel around Europe, the last thing you want to be doing is hauling around 50-pound suitcases from train to train, because some train stations actually don't have elevators. That's coming from experience, because this happened to me like 4 times. Every single time that I went to Europe, I went with a big suitcase, and I think it was just personal preference. I wanted to take a lot of stuff with me, and a lot of the times I kind of had no other choice but to bring my suitcase with me, so that's what I did. But if you can pack light, I would highly recommend it. This will make it very easy for you to just transfer from city to city if you are using trains as your travel system. And this brings me to the next point. Traveling through train isn't always the easiest and cheapest option. There's actually some airlines, Ryanair specifically, which is actually very, very cheap to travel with. The only thing is that they don't allow any checked baggage, but like I said, if you pack light and you only have carry-on luggage, then you will be able to get on these flights, and they are super, super cheap within Europe, so I would highly recommend looking into those. And the next thing is make sure that you pack good walking shoes. I know that's like a no-brainer, common sense, but your girl here was walking in Toms all around Rome, and within like 3 or 4 days of walking all of Rome, my foot got all screwed up, and that was the first stop of my trip in Italy. So for the rest of the trip, I had a broken foot, I'm gonna say. Like, I was limping around everywhere. Obviously that didn't stop me, but foot's still all messed up. That's okay. I just put like a sock on my heel to get extra comfort in there. If you have a cute pair of Nikes, or if you can afford Yeezys, or just whatever you can use that's comfortable to walk in, I would highly recommend, because honestly, in my opinion, walking is the best way to see a city. I do like using the big bus tours or the hop-on, hop-off bus tours, just because that will take you to the most central places, and you can get off, walk around, and then get back on wherever you are. But if you can walk for like 5 to 6, 7 hours, that's what I did when I was by myself, not with my mom, and it was the best way to see the city. And you just kind of feel like a local. You just get to see everything, stop in little shops if you see something cool, and just things like that. So good walking shoes are a must. The next thing I'm going to recommend is booking an apartment within good walking distance from train stations or bus stations or main sites, main attractions. Obviously that will put you in a more touristic place, but if you don't want to be near the big attractions and most touristic places, you can find somewhere that's more on the outskirts of the city, and just make sure that you have a good train station or bus station so you can get around the city. In Europe, most train systems are amazing and very easy to follow. Most of the time they are all in English, so it's really easy to get around and it's not hard at all. If you feel like there might be some confusion, just look into it a few days prior to going. That way you get familiar with the system before you get there. Another thing that I would recommend is using booking.com or Airbnb to book your apartments or your hotels, because I find that they're the places where you can find the best prices. And something that you need to do is make sure that you read the reviews. That way you know how the Wi-Fi is gonna be, the cleanliness, and just everything with the apartment. Most of the time people will say like if it was in a good location, if there's train stations around, or what there is to do around the area. So I would highly recommend reading reviews before actually going ahead and booking the apartment or the hotel. Another thing, and this is for my fitness people out there, make sure that you check the surroundings of where you're staying. Make sure that there's a gym around there, a grocery store, and things like that. That way you don't have to go too much outside of your circle to do the things that you need to do every single day. Personally, when I travel and I still want to get my gym in, I make sure to do that first thing in the morning. And if you can find somewhere within walking distance, you can easily get up at 5, 6 in the morning, walk there, get your workout in, get back to the Airbnb, to the apartment, change, and get on with your days. If you don't plan on using the transit system to get to your apartment or your hotel, I would highly recommend booking a car before you get to your destination, just because sometimes there aren't any taxis around, and this happened to me a few times and it was a little bit scary because sometimes it was like 10 at night. I didn't have a SIM card, which is literally crucial, so I had no way of contacting anyone, and I was just standing there like, and there's no taxis at bus stations or train stations, and I'm like, isn't it common sense for them to like be waiting here because there's people coming? But I guess not, because they have so many trains and buses coming through every single day that they don't just like wait for people to come. I guess you need to call them.
A little tip for you guys, always make sure that you talk to the place where you're staying at and rearrange some sort of pickup, because there's never cabs or taxis anywhere around the train station. So currently sitting here waiting for the taxi. I just called the resort where I'm staying, and they're gonna send a taxi my way. Taxi here.
Most of the time you actually get to save some money, so that's a good one as well. If you are a foodie like me, make sure that you look up reviews, make sure that you kind of have a game plan of what restaurants you plan to visit, because once you're there it's a little bit hard to plan everything around. So make sure that you know where you want to go before, and that way you don't find yourself starving and just end up eating wherever, because that happened to me a few times. And let me tell you something, I was not impressed, because if I'm gonna eat somewhere and I'm gonna like eat, I guess, not macro friendly food, then I want to enjoy every single bite. And if I'm just sitting at whatever restaurant, half the time it's not the best food, and this happened to me so many times. So I would highly recommend knowing where you want to go, and if you don't do this, at least reading the reviews of the place where you want to eat. Another thing I would recommend is getting a city pass. In most of the big cities they have a city pass where it'll include like an entrance to all the attractions, they include guided tours, they include access to transit systems. I'm not sure if all of them are like that, but I know in Rome it was like that, and I think in Paris as well. And this will also allow you to skip the line at most big attractions, because if you go in high season you will find like 2 to 3 to 4 hour lines, and if you have this pass you will only wait like 20 minutes. So I would highly recommend getting a city pass wherever you go, and I would highly recommend pre-buying this, just because you don't want to get to the location and then waste time trying to find where they sell this. You can actually buy them online, so just Google it. Google is your best friend. And if you don't plan on visiting too many museums or big attractions, and you just want to visit specific big attractions that might have big lines, I would also recommend looking into skip the line tickets, which they do have them for most attractions, and you can probably Google that as well. That way you don't have to do that once you get to the location. You can just go ahead into the skip the line and get in there without having to wait. Another thing is, do not trust the weather networks or apps or whatever. Be prepared, bring a raincoat, bring a umbrella, some good shoes for rain, because depending on what season you decide to go, it can be really rainy, especially in Italy. So just saying, if you are a foodie and you're a person that gets hungry very often and you don't want to just eat whatever you find on the streets. I would highly recommend bringing some food with you because most of the time you are going to be walking around a lot and you're going to be out of the apartment for a long time. So if you bring things like oats, protein bars, protein powder, bread, rice cake, tuna cans, and another reason why I added that in there is just in case you don't find a grocery store right away, you have some food to eat in the meantime. Make sure that you check out Groupon deals.
My first alcoholic legal drink is happening right now at Señor Frogs. We're getting a yard thanks to Groupon. You gotta check out the Groupons if you're traveling, you want some good deals. Groupon is the place to go.
Because Groupon is actually in a lot of places. So in Dubai, Groupon was very helpful. I was able to find really good deals for the safari tour and the Burj Khalifa, and they actually had like a million other things as well, like day trips and all of that. So make sure that you check Groupon if you want to get good deals. The second last thing on my list is check the best seasons for wherever location you decide to go to. When I went to Italy, I went to Cinque Terre, which is like more of a summery location, and I kind of went in the fall, so it was super rainy. It was like storming there. I literally lost a day and a half because I wasn't able to leave the apartment because it was storming. Like, there was a huge thunderstorm and I thought I was gonna die.
Crazy ass wind, like I'm actually pretty scared right now, I'm not gonna lie. There's no power. The wind keeps like opening my door. Can you guys hear that? I'm really scared right now. Seriously, what the hell?
Yeah, thankfully I didn't. Obviously I'm still here today, but definitely check the weather, check what season would be best to visit that place. And the last thing, I'm not sure if I covered everything, but I think I covered most of the most important things. Make sure that you keep money on you, change, because some bathrooms actually cost to use, whether it's like 50 cents or €1. It's good to make sure that you're keeping some change on you. And another thing is I would also recommend keeping some cash in general, just because sometimes taxis don't take debit cards or credit cards. Normally when I travel, I don't like taking out cash, but I will make sure just to keep like a minimal amount on me, just to make sure that I do have cash just in case I do need it. But most of the time I do use my debit card and my credit card. And I think that is about it. I think in Italy, you can actually save all your receipts, and if you spend more than €150, you can get taxes back at the airport. That's another thing that I remember, and I think that's about it right now. Yeah, so I hope you guys found those tips helpful. That's some things that I learned from my little travel adventures last year. If you did find the tips helpful, let me know down below, or give the video a like to show some support. If you guys have any other questions in regards to traveling, especially in Europe, because it's where I did most of my traveling last year, let me know down below. I will gladly answer all your questions. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, give it a thumbs up if you did, to show some support. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you enjoy my content, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions for me, anything to tell me, then leave it down below. And I will see y'all in the next one.